So it's hello from Botswana, from Gaborone, where I'm just about to go and give a series of lectures and a practical session on hemorrhage to a group of doctors and midwives in one of the private hospitals, Bokamoso, here. It's been quite difficult to access the medical community in Botswana because they're very, very careful about doctors and midwives coming from overseas, from outside the country to teach, but we've finally got there in the end. So I'm looking forward to that. Before Botswana, we've been in Zimbabwe, in a city called Bulawayo, which is the second city in the country. And there I was lucky to visit Mpilo Hospital, which is one of the big referral hospitals. And the thing that struck me there was that during my tour, when I visited the neonatal unit, there were 4 babies who'd lost their mothers during the childbirth process. The most recent of which was a set of twins, and they thought the mother had had a cardiac event, a heart event, during labour. So the first baby had been born when she was alive, and then the second twin was delivered when she had died already. So that was a really difficult thing. It really brought home to me, what it really means when a woman dies in labour, what it means to her immediate family, but I started to think about what it means to the rest of her family, the other children she's left behind. Also in Bulawayo, I visited the peripheral clinics and really saw a very good structure of transferring lower risk patients who might have difficulty in labour from the clinics on the outside of the city into the main hospital. And some very hard-working members of midwifery and medical staff, although there were definitely some resource issues with medication, and specifically the autoclave. So that's the machine that cleans instruments for theatre. Most of our instruments in obstetrics are cesarean section instruments, and they'd had to postpone many of their planned cesarean sections because there just wasn't the instrumentation available for the theatre cases. So that was, that was interesting to see. So before Zimbabwe, we were in Zambia, and Zambia, of course, is just to the north, and we stayed on a farm which was about 30-minute flight north of Lusaka, the capital. And there I had a friend because one of the midwives from Newcastle, where I work, her daughter lives on this Zambian farm. And that was wonderful because they had an airstrip in the back of their garden almost, a grass strip, and we landed and we were able to visit very rural Zambian areas. So really, really difficult areas for people to access. And we visited a project that was providing bicycles and motorcycle ambulances with a sidecar, and for the bicycle with a trailer, to get patients from the villages to the local clinic. So there would be a nominated man, usually one or two men, who would be able to transfer women in labour via those modes of transport. And that was really interesting. I mean, the drive that we had then from the clinic to the referral hospital was in itself about an hour and a half on a dirt road. So if there was a problem in the clinic, then that hospital would have to send an ambulance from themselves to the village clinic and then transfer the patient that way. So you could understand very easily how there could be huge delays in women accessing care that they need. First of all, getting from their home to the clinic, and then getting from the clinic to the hospital. Before Zambia, we're in Malawi. Malawi is a very interesting country. Of course, there's a huge lake there on the east side, so for some women that causes difficulties getting across the lake to the towns where the hospitals are. But because there's a female president in power, there was almost a different feeling than many of the other countries I've travelled through. So everywhere we went in Lilongwe, we saw banners talking about family planning, reducing child mortality, reducing the number of pregnancies, accessing care when you're in labour or when you've got a problem in the pregnancy. So really pushing women to deliver in a safe manner and then plan their families accordingly. Because of course each pregnancy that a woman has a risk associated with it. And once you start to get to 4, 5, 6 pregnancies, then that really starts to become a risky time, especially if one of the previous pregnancies has been a cesarean section. So I visited Bwela Hospital in Lilongwe, and there what really struck me was that the antenatal ward was packed. So it wasn't full of women who had problems in pregnancy, like high blood pressure, or they'd had a bleed perhaps, but it was full of women who were expecting to deliver in the next 2 or 3 weeks, because impressed on them was this need to deliver in the hospital. And of course they had realized and anticipated that transport in labour can be difficult to find, and it's not a great time to be travelling. So that was very interesting. Perhaps they need to think about developing some waiting homes like I've seen in other countries like Ethiopia, where there is a small residential area next to the hospital where women who are anticipating labour in the next little while can stay. So it's goodbye from me from Botswana, and I'll speak to you soon. From Botswana, we're going to Johannesburg, to South Africa, and then on to Swaziland. So some exciting times ahead.